Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Peachtree dish. Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Welcome, everybody, to the show. It is Tuesday. We got a fantastic show for you today. Welcome back from the holiday weekend. Hopefully everybody had a safe and happy Memorial Day. All right, so, yeah, we've got quite a show today. We are going to dive into some fun stuff. We have Marjorie Taylor Greene dropping a new conspiracy theory that the government wants to examine your poo. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. We've got that. We got MAGA chuds coming to your house. We also have some more updates on things that we learned about the Uvalde shooting, including a video here that shows how the cops are terrible and did a horrible job. Again, stuff that we already know, but more video evidence. And then Don Jr., of course, sounds off on his thoughts about why Uvalde happened in the first place. Great. Can't wait to hear that one. And then a little bit of breaking news today. We're going to talk about the Sussman trial. So that's a big thing that Donald Trump was doing, going after Sussman, who's a former Clinton lawyer, worked on the campaign or worked with the campaign. Turns out Trump had a little bit of a setback. So we'll talk about that. So we'll give you the details, and then of course Trump's reaction, which is always going to be hilarious. All right. So with that said, why don't we dive into the first story here? Let's talk about Peachtree dishes. Interesting. All right. Representative Marjorie Greene has a new conspiracy theory. Yes, a new conspiracy has dropped on Marjorie Greene's podcast. And basically she's saying the government is going to track your poop.
You have to accept the fact that the government totally wants to provide surveillance on every part of your life. They want to know when you're eating. They want to know if you're eating a cheeseburger, which is very bad because Bill Gates wants you to eat his fake meat that grows in a Peachtree dish. So you'll probably get a little zap inside your body and that's saying, no, don't eat a real cheeseburger. You need to eat the fake burger, the fake meat from Bill Gates. They probably also want to know when you go to the bathroom and if you're bowel movements are on time or consistent. I mean, what else do these people want to know?
I don't know who was with her there, but you could hear them laughing. Like when it gets even too absurd for whoever is filming or with Marjorie Greene. That was not me laughing. No. Wow. Okay. Fascinating. Hey, I wonder if the government's tracking us, right? And tracking the bowel movements or what we eat, if it's going to involve
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
I don't know. It might. Oh my God. So, and by the way, talking about, Bill Gates' fake meat.
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
Okay. With that all done, let's dive into it, okay? So you think the government that you work for and are a part of wants to shock people somehow, like, I don't know, like electric shocks or something, I don't know, for eating a cheeseburger, and then to track their poo and what they're eating. I mean, it doesn't. I'm gonna need. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna need to see some proposed legislation here that would prove that this is happening, or that this is on the docket. That somebody out there wants to do that. Oh, you don't have any? You can't point to one single shred of evidence? Well, that's because you're insane, and it's not true. Look, now, okay, so look, what she's talking about is there's a surveillance state, right? So this is a thing that actually does exist. There is a surveillance state in the United States. We've talked about this before. There's the real surveillance state, and then there's the fake one that conservatives make up in order to make themselves feel like victims. Okay, so now look, in the real surveillance state, and this has been documented before, by the way, American Muslims were profiled by the government after 9/11. American citizens that just happen to be Muslims being spied in their mosques as they go back and forth. They weren't doing anything wrong. They weren't committing any crimes. They were just Muslim. And the United States, after 9/11, spied on them, followed them around, tracked their internet use, tracked where they went. So that is the surveillance state, right? Now, they also, of course, pre-9/11, for example, the government also focused on tracking and disrupting left-wing activity, including socialist communists in the global south. CIA did some coups down in South America. Again, prior to 9/11, when there actually was not just a surveillance state, but a very big deep state that no longer really exists. And if they do, they're incredibly inept. But back then, there was some real shit. Now, they also, and this is more recent, Occupy Wall Street. They tracked and cracked down on Occupy Wall Street and other kind of leftist protest movements like pipeline protests and all that stuff. Now, this is all while the right wing was radicalizing. Now, so people like Greene are claiming that, oh no, big government, they're actually tracking us. Well, that's not true. In fact, back in 2009, a man named Daryl Johnson wrote a DHS report on right-wing extremism. So now, again, he was in the department, he was in the government, he's been tracking right-wing extremism, and wrote this giant report for the Obama, government, Obama administration. That ended up getting leaked to the press. So let me read you words that he had written in an article here. He said the Republican Party and conservative media were so offended by the term right-wing extremist and claimed that this report was an attack on conservatism, the GOP, and the newly formed Tea Party. Of course, you had Fox News that raged day and night, Rush Limbaugh, you name it. And so, look, the Obama administration, fearing the pushback that had already begun from Fox News, in his infinite weakness, had surrendered and dissolved the team that was tracking right-wing extremism. And within a few weeks after that, there was a killing of 3 police officers in Pittsburgh by a white supremacist. The murder of an abortion doctor in Kansas. Fatal shooting of 2 sheriff's deputies in Florida by a militia sympathizer. And the shooting of a guard at the Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., and on and on and on. Numerous incidents. And yet the real surveillance state in this country did not track any of that. But if you were a pipeline protester against Keystone XL or Standing Rock, they were on that shit. They were right there, armed with as many weapons as they could find. And including water cannons in freezing temperatures. So that's the reality here. Now that same surveillance state, by the way, documented by Edward Snowden, for example, does collect everyone's metadata. It doesn't matter if you're conservative, doesn't matter if you're liberal, doesn't matter if you're progressive, doesn't matter if you're a MAGA guy. They collect all your metadata. And look, that same surveillance state also happened to listen in on soldiers having phone sex. So what they were doing was that. What they were not doing is tracking whether or not you had eaten a cheeseburger. I mean, and look, you know why, right? Because nobody cares. You think the government cares that you had a cheeseburger the other day? No. In fact, look, corporations, they run the government and they want people eating more cheeseburgers. I like cheeseburgers. I like bacon cheeseburgers. I've also eaten the plant-based kind. Those are all right. They're both pretty good. Yeah, and you know what? God bless America for allowing me to have the choice to eat a plant-based burger or a meat-based burger. I got the choice to eat whatever I want. That's great. But going back to Greene here in their bizarro fiction world, conservatives are the real victims in everything. They're taking away your steaks. They're taking away your burgers. They're filling a Peachtree dish meat with vaccines and along with the salad dressing. And so, look, all of this is, by the way, part of the underlying conservative desire to be a victim, to be the real victim here. Again, to feel oppressed. You'll polls out where a majority of Republicans say, oh, no, it's white people that are being oppressed here. We're the real victims. You want to be oppressed so badly that you make things up. And real oppression does exist in this world. You're not one of the people that are being oppressed. And so it is this bizarro fiction world that they have created. And look, you have the right wing that generally tends to be more authoritarian, and they project that onto the left. I don't care about what you're eating. I don't care about your... I could go the rest of my life and never learn about another person's poo and be very, very happy. And about what they eat. Okay? I don't want to control anybody's life. And you look at what the Supreme Court's doing right now. Stripping, for example, women of reproductive rights. That is controlling their bodies. It's controlling their lives. It's controlling what they do. Trying to criminalize, essentially, sex outside of marriage. So you tell me who's trying to tell, who what to do. Because it ain't the left. It ain't the left. So not Bill Gates, right? So Bill Gates, I don't consider Bill Gates to be part of the left. I think Bill Gates is a corporatist. I think he's a bit of a weird guy. Now, what do corporations want to do? Well, they want to make money. What do billionaires want to do? They want to make more money. Of course. And so, there happens to be a demand for more sustainable meat sources in this country. Now that people are aware that, yes, our meat industry is unsustainable. I mean, studies have shown that growing interest among U.S. consumers limiting meat intake based on the industry's impact on climate. According to a 2020 Gallup poll, 49% of people who were reducing their meat consumption of meat cited environmental reasons as a major factor. Meanwhile, the rising popularity of plant-based alternatives, whose production is said to emit anywhere from 30 to 90% less greenhouse gases than animal-based meat, has added pressure for the beef industry to address sustainability. And let's be honest, the meat industry as it exists now is not sustainable. We should actually do something about that. The executive director for the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef notes that, quote, we won't be able to be in business if we don't stop climate change. In fact, nobody will be in business. So that's really disturbing, right? Because again, I like steaks, and I like burgers, and I like bacon. I want those things to be around. And I also want them to be done in a sustainable way. And we can do that if the industry actually is made to do that. And so now, and part of what they're looking to do, by the way, is not banning cows. Again, that's a lie. They're not banning cows, but some of the stuff that they're looking into do is a couple different things. One, engineering different feed that reduces cow emissions. I know they talk about cow farts. It's actually cow burps that are a big source of methane in agriculture. So yeah, if you come up with a food source that doesn't have that effect, well, then you can cut down on agriculture emissions by quite a bit. That makes sense to me, right? Now, another practice embraced by the industry is called regenerative farming. Part of that includes involves the use of cover crops to capture some of the carbon. Again, that's a smart idea. It's a fine idea. None of these problems by themselves, of course, are going to solve the climate crisis, but they do contribute to helping, and believe me, we need all the help that we can get, while also not taking away your steaks. Yeah, I think if somebody wants to jump into the sustainable meat industry, I don't have any problem with that. But as long as there's, it actually contributes to helping to solve the problem, and is of course fairly regulated and allows for competition. You do all that stuff and solve the meat problem, or the not meat problem, but the carbon issue in our agriculture system. I'm all for it. All right. If they started feeding the cows differently, bringing methane down. Yeah, that's what they're looking into. That's what they're looking into. All right. Pooh Scissor says, I'm fine with tofu. Yeah, again, that's the beautiful thing here about this, is that we are allowed to do the choice. So if you want to, cut out meat from your diet, if it works out better for you, that's perfect. It works out great. It actually does cut the consumption. That's a good thing. If you prefer not to eat animals, that's a thing that you can do, and it's totally fine. Again, we have choices here, and I think that that's a wonderful thing. But for those who do prefer to eat animals, there's got to be a better way to do it more sustainably and better for the environment that isn't quite as destructive. So, all right. Anyway, let's go to the next story. Supporters of former President Donald Trump are still attempting to find the voter fraud, unsuccessfully, of course, nearly 2 years later. And they're doing so, of course, by coming to your house. They're coming to your house. A resident of Bremerton, Washington, recently recounted his story of being accosted by a Trump supporter looking for voter fraud at his doorstep. It's according to the Seattle Times. An organization called the Washington Voter Research Project has been sending canvassers door to door to ask residents about their voter registration status in an effort to find the fraud. We got to find the fraud. Bremerton resident Michael Simons tells the newspaper that he came away disturbed after one canvasser came to his door and, quote, kind of went off the deep end when she started ranting about undocumented immigrants and forging ballot signatures. Quote, it seemed like a misinformation campaign. Well, yeah. The same people who believe that there's mass voter fraud in the 2020 election also believe insane things like that there is a conspiracy theory specifically designed to have immigrants replace white people. Let me show you the polling on that. Great replacement. And by the way, great replacement overlapping with a lot of racism. So a group of people in this country trying to replace native-born Americans with immigrants and people of color share their political views. Again, you can see the overall very small amount of Biden voters. That's still way too big of a number. Look at Trump voters. Damn, over half. And then, of course, you look at discrimination against white people becoming as big of a problem as discrimination against black people. Again, insane. Here's Trump voters. Almost 3/4. How concerned are you that native-born Americans are losing economic, political, and cultural influence to immigrants? Actually, Trump voters are less concerned than Republicans overall, which I think is kind of fascinating. So they think discrimination and the white replacement, but yet they're like, we're less concerned that we're actually going to lose real political power from this, or economic power. Fascinating. That is very, very interesting. So now this is again, according to a recent Yahoo News YouGov poll. And so look, they believe that they're being replaced by immigrants, undocumented immigrants, of course, right? Specifically from the global south, because for some reason they think that people from the global south are inferior or something. But the reality is those people can't even vote. So, and look, they believe though that no, they came in, they were bussed in by George Soros through the southern border, which is completely open. There's nothing, no fence, nothing at all. It's completely open, and they were bussed in. Wait, I thought Trump bragged that he boosted border security. I thought he secured the border. If Trump had secured the border, like he was claiming to, then how'd the people get through the border? The undocumented immigrants flown in by George Soros. It doesn't make any sense. Or bust in by George Soros. Doesn't make any sense. But again, this is the right one we're dealing with. They're not dealing with reality. But anyway, now these people are going around and they're trying to prove this insane conspiracy theory. Again, no evidence that has been prevented. Just a bunch of crappy movies, right? Documentaries that don't prove a damn thing, filled with spurious accusations and no real evidence. But look, they're doing this to try to prove that there was voter fraud. In reality, of course, they seem to be pretty afraid of the changing demographics. Again, more Republicans than Trump voters. And so you look at that, there's definitely a racial animus to this. They just don't like brown people. Racism, xenophobia, and of course, conspiracy theories. And that leads people to do insane things. Insane things like, I don't know, as serious as the Buffalo mass shooting, of which, the gunman had claimed, well, obviously a great replacement, right? They're coming in and replacing us. So that made me drive 200 miles to a store filled with black people. It can be as serious as that, or as ridiculous as impersonating, and by the way, illegal, as impersonating county officials. Because as regular citizens, remember, they don't actually have any right to question you about your voter registration. I mean, yes, a random person can ask, hey, did you register as a Democrat? And you can just be like, fuck off. I'm not going to answer that. I don't understand why, you would tell them or not tell them. I don't know, right? But these people know that, if you come to their door as a rando Trump voter and are like, who'd you vote for? What was your registration? We think you might have been doing voter fraud. Well, they're going to be pretty turned off. So that's why some of these people actually impersonated county officials. Simmons said that the woman had falsely implied that she was there on behalf of the county auditor's office, which is something that Spokane County Auditor Vicki Dalton told the Seattle Times is simply not true. Quote, we don't do this kind of doorbelling or canvassing door to door. We don't sponsor it. We don't endorse it. Nobody is doing this under our authority. Thurston County Auditor Mary Hall also said she received complaints about canvassers misrepresenting themselves. Quote, people called very concerned because they were portraying themselves as county employees. They had the Thurston County logo on their clipboard. So look, this is a real problem, okay? People just pretending to be officials, showing up your door, and then interrogating you about who you voted for. I mean, that's scary, right? What if there's somebody who's even more mentally unbalanced, but had a gun? I mean, in this country, that's not unheard of. You have more guns than people here at this point. It's not like this isn't a possibility, right? Now, thankfully, that hasn't happened yet, as far as I'm aware of. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, isn't there something better you could do? Like, as a MAGA guy? Or gal? Than going around and just basically yelling at people who voted differently than you? Or, you know, going to their house and demanding to see their registration. Give me your documents! I need your documents! No, how about you fuck off? And just go home. Do something better with your life. Do something productive. Look, y'all lost the election legitimately. Just, I mean, move on. Instead of wasting time, money, and effort and acting like a crazy person, why not actually read some first factual information? You know, get actually educated about what's really going on and not filled with nonsense conspiracy theories. And then if you still, at the end of the day, prefer Trump Republicans, and I'm sure a lot of people do, right? Okay, why don't you take that energy that you were wasting going door to door harassing people, and maybe, I don't know, if you're going to go door to door, be like, hey, I think this is why my candidate is great. Okay, well, that's what canvassing is. Or you can do other things to try to get him elected next time. I hope you're unsuccessful in getting him elected, but hey, I'll at least, you know, think that that's a lot better than just going to people's door and badgering them over nonsense conspiracy theories. Just saying. All right. That's too much hard work. Unfortunately. I voted for Trump 50 times and he's still lost. You know what? 51 was the magic number. Sorry, Martin. Sad. And you know what? And you know what it was?
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
That's what it was. You can't compare it to the massive dumps. All right. You know, I should have done that. Oh man, I should have done the massive dumps thing during the Marjorie Greene story. That would have been fun. Damn it. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's go to something actually more serious, though. So let's go to switch gears and talk about Uvalde. A new video here from ABC News shows that, well, the police narrative surrounding their response to that shooting has a few inconsistencies, has a few holes in it. In fact, according to this new video, a 911 operator was broadcasting details from kids that had been calling in who were making these frantic calls as the massacre was unfolding. They did a pretty big report on it. I'm going to show you some video from that. Let's take a look.
As the Justice Department starts to review law enforcement's response to the deadly school shooting at Robb Elementary, new video obtained by ABC News shows the terrifying moments after that gunman opened fire.
Okay, they're getting the kids out.
Police officers breaking windows, trying to evacuate the children, and the video also capturing what appears to be dispatch audio. Sharing with officers in the field, 911 operators are on the phone with a student trapped in a classroom that the gunman had entered.
Are we able to, is there anybody inside of the building at this? Someone is advising he is in the room full of victims at this moment.
All right, so Now, again, you saw that room full of victims. The child is in the room filled with victims. Is anybody inside of the building? Well, now there were people inside of the building. They were waiting outside the door. Again, kids, during this event, desperately calling the police for help. We're alive. We're alive. Some of us are still alive. We need help. And the cops outside the they were either waiting outside the door or they're getting their own kids out. I mean, the utter cravenness of the Uvalde police is just absolutely unmatched. They knew they had a chance to save the children, but they refused, and then they decided to lie about it. I mean, and look, Texas Department of Public Safety spokesman Stephen McCraw repeatedly told reporters during a press conference on Friday that the cops had waited an hour because the incident commander considered the suspect a, quote, barricaded subject, and that there was time and that there were no more children at risk. But we know that's not true. We know that's not true. There were children in there, and they were absolutely at risk. They were dying. Some were bleeding out. Some were getting shot for calling the police. And they did nothing. So now I'm going to go to this press conference, some of that anyway, where McCraw contradicts that assertion that, oh, no more children were at risk. In fact, here it is.
She identified herself and whispered she's in room 112. At 12:10, she called back in room 12, advised there were multiple dead. Again at 12:16, she called back and said there was 8 to 9 students alive.
ABC News learning the gunman was inside the school for 77 gut-wrenching minutes before law enforcement breached the locked door with a key and killed the shooter.
All right, so more details, by the way. There was, again, many calls throughout that 77 minutes. At 12:16, that same girl called back, said that there was 8 to 9 students alive. At 12:19, a 911 call was made, and another person in the room, in room 111, calls. At 12:21, again, there was another call with the 911 call saying that 3 shots were fired. At 12:36, a 911 call lasted for 21 seconds. The initial caller called back. A student had called back and was told to stay on the line and be very quiet. She told 911 that he shot the door. Approximately 12:43 and 12:47, she asked 911, the police, it's not very clear from this article, but at 12:46, she said she could not stay quiet, that she could hear the police next door. At 12:50, that she couldn't sit still. She could hear the police next door. At 12:50, the shots are fired that can be heard with 911. A 911 call at 12:51. It appears that that's when the officers were moving children out of the room. At that time, first of all, that call was outside before the call cuts off. So again, not super clear here from the notes of these calls, but you can see that it was a large amount of time in which you had multiple calls coming in, sometimes multiple from the same person, other people calling in from the 2 different classrooms that had kids in it. And these are the 2 classrooms that were conjoined that had the gunman in them, going back and forth. So there were definite survivors there. And yet, in between the time of the first call from inside the classroom and when the Customs and Border Patrol agents came into the room, you had 48 minutes. 48 minutes that they knew that kids were still alive and were trapped in those rooms. And for 48 minutes, they did absolutely nothing. Now, how many do you think could have died as a result of that? How many were that were injured initially and succumbed to those injuries later? And how many of those could have been saved had police acted sooner? We don't know. We don't know the answer. We'll never know, because police decided that their lives were more important. that they didn't want to put themselves at risk. Oh, you don't understand. We could have been shot. We could have been hurt. We could have been killed. Oh, you're going to ask us to go into a room with a guy with a gun? No. We're not going to do that. There are 19 officers stacked outside in Uvalde. Told the Border Patrol, don't go in. Don't go in. No, it's not safe. It's not safe. They could have been hurt. Border Patrol actually decided after waiting for way too long, okay, we're going to just go in ourselves. Look, police, the Uvalde police especially, absolutely proved their uselessness and their cowardice, which is absolutely on display here. And by the way, they were very, very concerned about being shot. Oh, they could have been shot. They could have been killed. But wait a minute. Back in 2018, yeah, 4 years ago. 4 years ago. So it's been 4 years. They received grants to upgrade their body armor. In fact, here is that. The Uvalde Police Department on Facebook, the Uvalde Police Department is pleased to announce that we have completed the process and been awarded grant funds to the Office of the Governor to outfit every Uvalde police officer with level 4 body armor. Level 4 body armor, wow. This important piece of legislation provided us funding to equip police officers with body armor rated to stop rifle rounds. In 2017, Senate Bill 12, which passed into law, 23 million rifle-resistant body armor grants were awarded to 453 jurisdictions around the state. Thanks goes out to those who supported Senate Bill 12 and everyone who supports those who work to keep us safe. Blue lives matter! So, these guys, nice little cosplay there, posing with the armor. They had level 4 rifle round stopping body armor. And they still waited outside for 77 minutes. While children who do not have level 4 body armor, well, I mean, because they're school kids, they were gunned down. Absolute colossal waste of money. This is the town that spent 40% of its budget on the police. I'd love to hear police bootlickers right now who claim that, oh no, if you defund the police, then you're just going to have inept, cowardly, unprepared police who will refuse to do their jobs. I'd love to have them explain how fully funding the police to the tune of 40% of the budget plus grants for level 4 body armor led to cowardly, unprepared police, as we've seen. They didn't even follow protocol, by the way, as a lot of you point out. The latest protocol is to engage the shooter, whether or not you have backup. And they didn't. And look, they absolutely had the arms, they had the armor, they had the training, they had the numbers in order to take out one guy armed with an assault weapon. And it seems like if they were so scared of the weapon that he was using, don't you think that they'd be on the side of trying to reintroduce an assault weapons ban? Look, they chose not to do it. Not because they didn't think there were kids left to save. They obviously knew it. But instead, they decided to put their lives, their own lives, and their children's lives, by the way, over other people's lives. That's who the cops are in America. And it's a training issue. They are trained to take absolutely no risk. And if they are threatened, if made to feel threatened at all by someone who's unarmed or maybe has a BB gun, a little black kid with a BB gun, for example, or knife, then they will immediately shoot you dead within seconds of arriving to the scene. But if there's someone else, if they go to a scene where someone else has a gun, oh, that's when they hesitate. That's when they say, oh, no, I don't want to put myself at risk to get shot at. No, because it's our lives that are in danger. Screw everybody else. That's when we hunker down and we wait. That's who the cops are. Okay. Maybe lawmakers will pay for body armor for all students and teachers along with metal detectors in schools also. I mean, it seems like a waste. It just kind of seems like a waste. You know? When we could actually do something like reintroduce the assault weapons ban. It would actually worked a lot better. Because we've already seen, like, I mean, I don't understand how a metal detector is going to stop an active shooter from the outside. They're just going to go through the metal detector, openly brandishing their weapon. It doesn't make any sense how that would stop it. All right. Did I see the interview given by the Border Patrol agent going in and engaging the shooter? I did not. Did not. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to Don Jr., by the way. Over the weekend, Donald Trump Jr. took to Rumble in order to share what he believes is really at fault for the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas. Take a look.
It's the gun. It's not the sociopath wielding it, folks. If it wasn't for the gun, this kid would be a well-adjusted, reasonable individual. He'd be a wonderful human being, right? He wouldn't have done the exact same thing with a bat or a bomb or some sort of improvised device or a machete. He's a great kid. Don't judge him. We pretend that everything is great and fine because we can't acknowledge anymore that people are screwed up. We can't acknowledge what the actual causes are. It's not, a drug addict, mother, and a missing father, and a lack of religion, indoctrination programs in our schools, you crazy teachers, teaching some of the crap I've been talking about in this video. It's none of those things. Our own stupidity, apathy, wokeness, laziness, that's the problem, folks. And until we fix that, the rest is just talk and crap. They'll blame it on the gun. They'll blame it on everything because no one could possibly take responsibility for their actions. No one can admit that someone's actually a piece of garbage and screwed up, right? We can't have that. That would be mean.
Yay, it's the damn wokies. That's what it is. That's the real problem. Not letting me call the person who killed 19 children and 2 adults a monster. No, that's the problem. It's also wokeness. Yes, it's wokeness. Wait, hold on. I pretty much everybody's calling that person a monster. Ramos. But look, the straw man of the left that Don Jr. has built up is really kind of something else. You know? I mean, for one, nobody's actually saying that it's just the gun's fault. No, conservatives, they think it's like a gotcha when they're like, well, the gun just didn't get up and shoot itself. Nobody's saying that, you moron. No, what we're saying with gun control is to keep certain people from getting weapons that shouldn't be getting weapons. That's kind of the point of gun control. And look, again, the people, we want to prevent certain people that have some serious issues, right, from getting their hands on weapons. And look, if you want to point out, like, well, Ramos passed a background check because he didn't have anything on his record. That is fair. That's factual. Yes, he didn't have anything on his record, but there were some other things that were pretty, big problems, some red flags there. Again, threatening to rape and murder women that he had talked to online, threatening to shoot them, doing all that stuff. And so he had some serious issues. Okay, some serious issues. Now that said, right? Going back to Don Jr.'s point, oh, but Jeff, he would have done the same thing with a bat or a bomb or a machete. And that's the other thing, right? Hey, we actually regulate things. For example, ammonium nitrate, right? So you talked about bombs, right? Well, ammonium nitrate is an explosive that is commonly used in improvised explosives, right? We actually regulate that more than the guns. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security, the EPA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and Explosives, makes sense, U.S. Chemical Safety and Hazard Investigation Board, as well as the Department of Transportation and Agriculture, all share oversight responsibility when it comes to ammonium nitrate. There's rules of how much you can have at a time, stiff penalties if you break the rules, and again, of course, the regulation that we have on record isn't exactly like the best or the most efficient, but it's certainly, you can't make an argument that it's less that it isn't more regulated than guns, because it certainly is. But see, here's the thing about ammonium nitrate, and it's the same with bats and machetes. Yes, they can be weaponized to hurt people and can kill people, but that's not the main point. The main point of ammonium nitrate is it's a fertilizer. It's not supposed to. It's not there to specifically kill people. That's not its only purpose. Okay, but guns. The main purpose is to kill things with guns. So again, you can say, well, look, self-defense, right? Yes, you're using a gun in self-defense to kill someone that you believe is going to cause you harm. It is an instrument of death. You have to call it what it is. It's not a toy. It's not a hobby. It is an instrument of death. It is, and by the way, it can save lives and take lives. That's the whole point. You actually have to respect what weapons can do, because they are weapons, not toys. So actually have some respect for guns. I grew up around guns. I worked at a shooting club. I know what guns are about. I know people that love guns, as I'm sure a lot of you do. Shot them. I've shot guns. And yes, I do enjoy them. But you can do all that and also be like, hey, I don't want these weapons to be in certain people's hands because of the amount of mass shootings that we have. And so, look, again, getting back to the point of machetes and bats, right? If it's easier to kill people with machetes and bats and bombs and cars and trucks, then why don't we see an epidemic of that? We don't have mass knifings in this country, but we have a mass shooting every single day. And a mass shooting is defined by 4 or more shot, including, injured or killed in a single incident at the same general time and location, which does not include the shooter. We have one of those every single day in this country. Every single day. And yes, and even in places that have gun control measures, right? And so you want to question, oh, why is that? Well, they have gun control. Okay, if you're one state that has gun control, take Illinois, right? Or one city, Chicago. And then you look at all the other places around it that have lax gun laws. That just kind of, it really makes it more difficult to have less guns when everyone around you, you're in a sea of guns. You understand? So it is still easy to get a gun. All you have to do is go out of state lines. And yes, you are breaking laws. Yes, you are a criminal. But still, you can get them legally. I mean, there is that gun show loophole. And basically, and again, that's not really a great name for it. It's not really a great moniker. But basically, you can get guns from dealers who are not federally licensed firearms dealers. You can buy it from people who don't have a manifest, and then you don't have to go through a background check. So that's how you can get and you can still buy them legally, because that is a loophole. That's how a lot of people can get those guns. So, and again, you get a gun, and it's far more easy to do a mass shooting than it is a mass knifing. That can happen, of course, but it's incredibly rare and so much easier for a rando to pick up a rifle and cause massive damage. Massive damage. Especially if you can have weapons that are, first of all, very easily modifiable, relatively cheap to purchase, have little recoil, and have large magazines, or the ability to switch out these magazines very, very quickly. So the AR is an excellent platform. That's why it's incredibly popular. That's also why it's very deadly. Now, moving on. Do I have another video now? No, I don't have another video. He says this: we can acknowledge what the actual causes are. It's not, a drug addict mother and a missing father, lack of religion, indoctrination programs in our schools. So on that, why don't we, I don't know, try to help families? I mean, the United States is actually one of the most hostile countries in the developed world towards families. First, for one, it actually requires a two household income to survive. We don't have health care, especially mental health care, available to everybody. There's no federal paid leave, no maternity or paternity leave. We have a war on drugs, which is being won by drugs. We have the cartels that are benefiting from this. It's not a very good place to raise families. Not a very good place for even marriage. So you want to talk about the breakdown of the family, right? Which is what a lot of these conservative commentators go to in blaming things like mass shootings, right? Oh, it's the breakdown of the family. It's the family. All right, well, why don't we make it better in the United States for families? And look, by the way, the fifth most cited leading issue to divorce is a financial issue. The fourth most cited is getting married too young, being pressured and pushed into marriage. Now, this is, I think, more prevalent in conservative circles, because there's that whole push to don't have sex until you're married, right? Don't have sex till you're married. You got to remain pure. You got to remain pure for your husband or wife, whatever. That, again, I think that factors into why people would rush into marriage, right? And then those marriages don't work out. We also know that, of course, having children has a huge impact on not only finances, of course, for many other reasons, cost of college, for example. But, again, we've seen studies where having kids makes people less happy. And, of course, that can lead to families, getting dissolved, divorces, internal struggle, all that stuff, right? And I think that's partly because society no longer helps parents with raising kids. So some of the things that people argue could, of course, have an impact on a person in their home life, and, might contribute to their decision to commit violence against other people. But here's the thing, all those different factors that always get discussed, and then we never do anything about them, are not uniquely American problems. For example, there's mental illness in other countries. There's poverty, single-parent households. There's drug addiction, secular schools, which aren't a problem, really. I have no idea why they think that the lack of God in schools is somehow causing people to shoot people. No, in America, we are the only country that has this many mass shootings. We have one every single day. And the common thread connecting that all are guns. Easy access to high-powered weaponry. That's it. Other countries don't have this problem. They have all sorts of other problems. Again, the same problems that we have. But you do not have every Tom, Dick, and Harry that can go and grab a high-powered weapon and use it and carry out a mass shooting. And that's a fact. What it comes down to, if you actually want to solve the problem, which Don Jr. is not interested in doing, is to keep weapons out of the hands of certain people. It is about the people. It's people control to have people not be able to access these high-powered weapons. Now, to Don Jr. and every Republican who has taken a huge check from the gun lobby, understand that they desperately want to divert you from the topic of having that discussion. They want to make the conversation about everything but keeping guns out of the hands of certain people. They point to things that where either there's no real policy answer, like what about the fathers? Okay, are you gonna how do you make that a policy position? How do you solve that through policy? You don't. That's the point. They don't want to solve the issue that they point out. Or they will take these arguments and tie it into their own, like, oh, you know what? The shooting just proves why we should ban wokeness. No, that and critical race, not contributing factors at all. Not contributing factors at all. No, it's just ridiculousness. And just a lack of any solutions, because again, when it comes down to it, their paychecks depend on them not finding solutions. Mike Jet says, I know I have played Doom all my life. I'm not going to shoot up a building. It's literally for my own protection. Oh, yeah, it's not video games, right? Or anything like that. No, it's not video games. It's not violent movies. It's not anything like that. It's the easy access to weaponry. All right. Let me get this. Here we go. Okay. Republicans want to say it's mental illness, yet provide no assistance in that regard. Yeah. Did I hear about the Chicago shooting? There's Chicago shootings all the time. Again, if we covered all the shootings, this would be nothing more than talking about shootings. So, and again, that's also the sad reality in this country. There was also several shootings over the holiday weekend as well. 12. Jeez. Not surprising, though. All right. Let's change the subject here. Let's go on to the last story and wrap it up. Former President Donald Trump is not happy with the decision of the jury in the trial of former Clinton lawyer Michael Sussman. So now Sussman was facing charges of lying to the FBI in the early stages of the investigation into former President Donald Trump and his supposed connections to Russia. So understand that this goes back to like Russiagate stuff, okay? So now Russiagate, first of all, irritates members of the left and irritates members of the far right. There seems to be an obsession on both sides with all things Russiagate. Now on the right, speaking of them, the Sussman trial has actually been a major focus of John Durham's investigation. So he's been trying to find out the origin of the FBI's probe into Russian interference. And then, of course, they're going back to talking about the Steele dossier. Now, of course, there's a lot of stuff in the Steele dossier that wasn't true. It was speculation, salacious speculation. But then there were other stuff that actually did prove to have a basis in reality. And so it's kind of a mixed bag, right? And that's essentially Oppo research. Now, Sussman, no, let me start that again here. Go back. The Trump camp, MAGA people, right-wingers, were thrilled when Sussman was indicted for allegedly lying to the FBI. So now Sussman went to the FBI, and he's like, hey, I think that there's some suspicious activity, right? So now he goes to the FBI General Counsel James Baker, but didn't apparently, allegedly, come clean about his work with Clinton's campaign while he was giving the Bureau information suggesting Trump's ties to Russia. Now, the charge has been a center of claims from conservatives that Clinton's team tried to have Trump spied on. After a 2-week trial and days of deliberations, a federal jury delivered not guilty verdict on the charge. Sussman lied when he went to the FBI of accusations that the Trump organization was secretly communicating with a bank called Alpha Bank. So now mainstream media, of course, they talked about this. They made a huge spectacle. They talked about it for months and months. Because, and these are the details, for 4 months prior to the 2016 presidential election, there were 2 servers registered to Alpha Bank that were pinging the address of another server maintained by a mass marketing firm for the Trump organization. So they're pinging the servers, right? And now people looked at that and it's, oh, that's weird. That's some interesting traffic. Okay. These are multiple pings on the DNS. We're very, very curious. What's going on here? Are they communicating with each other? So now there was an investigation into it, and it turns out there actually wasn't any secret communications. There weren't any plans to, use that as a back channel from Russia, Putin using Alpha Bank to secretly communicate with Trump Tower. Again, there's no evidence of that, right? What they did find is that it was basically either just white noise, internet white noise, or marketing, like loading it with advertisements. And so, but anyway, nothing that was found proved to be nefarious. And so that investigation, it fell through. So now going to Sussman, who again brought this to the attention of the FBI while he was working along with the Clinton campaign. He was accused of lying about that and trying to basically get an investigation on Trump. Now, the jury was unable to determine beyond a reasonable doubt that Sussman was deliberately telling a lie when he had presented his claims. So, in response to that, of course, Trump world not happy about that. In fact, here's what he did. He exploded. He said, "Our legal system is corrupt. Our judges and justices are highly partisan, compromised, or just plain scared. Our borders are open. Our elections are rigged. Inflation is rampant. Gas prices and food costs are through the roof. Our military leadership is woke. Our country is going to hell. And Michael Sussman is not guilty." Okay, so I love how whenever Trump doesn't get his own way, it's immediately corruption. Like, really? Really? Now, look, that said, is the Supreme Court corrupt? I think it is. I think a lot of our institutions do happen to be corrupted by corporations, and generally tend to favor conservatives. That said, do we have inflation? Yes. Thanks in large part to corporate greed. And of course, COVID. That of course led to overpriced food and energy, and we're all suffering today, right? These things are true, objective facts, right? Now, what is not true is having open borders. What? No, no, we didn't have. First of all, never had open borders. Not under Trump, obviously, not under Obama, not under Biden. No, there's been no real huge shift in border policy that is significant. We also don't have a rigged election. Not true. Again, numerous investigations into this. No evidence of mass voter fraud. There is voter fraud, sure, it does happen. Statistically incredibly small. And a lot of the cases that, we've seen were people trying to vote twice for Trump. Or write in their dead relatives for Trump. Things like that. And as far as woke leadership, look, I think those of us on the left, we are very critical of, what's that word? So it's Yes, it's related to it's where, you know, the military will put out like, oh, we are so wonderful and accepting of new people. Please come join the military. So then, you know, we can have this incredibly diverse group of people go and bomb brown people. Not really interested in those kinds of ads. Not really interested. But the reason that they're doing it is not because of some weird, nefarious, woke agenda. No, it's because they need more manpower. They need more bodies. Doesn't make any sense, right? Like the whole, you know, oh, it's the wokies, and it's the agenda to make the military and the leadership woke, to make them weak. No, that's really, really dumb. No, it's not virtue signaling. Yeah, I forget, but it's kind of on the lines of as well, like rainbow capitalism, for example, where, you know, these companies will, you know, adopt this inclusive language, you know, oh, we support diversity, we support all of that, while still giving to like Republican donors that are trying to shut down like gay marriage and, you know, go after trans people. I mean, again, it's sort of the same phenomenon that goes on in that situation. You don't actually mean anything. You're just doing it to help yourself. So in a way, it's not really woke, is it? Yeah, pandering. Pandering is a good word to that. A good explanation, but yes. So there's that, right? But what Don Jr. is doing is basically throwing all of these buzzwords at the wall. Because once again, we see that Trump is not a victim of some nefarious plot. Now, if you could point out, like, hey, the media is mean to me. Yes, that's true. The media is very mean to Donald Trump. That's fair. Yes, they do, you know, corporate media didn't like Trump. They also didn't like Bernie Sanders. They also don't like progressives as well. And so, do you ever hear a right-winger make that comparison? Be like, I can't believe that the media, that the corporate media treats us as bad or almost as bad as they do the far left. No, they never say that. They never point that out. Even though it's absolutely true. Again, you look at coverage about, for example, Bernie Sanders in the mainstream press, in the Washington Post and the New York Times, and how they treat all these progressives. No, they despise progressives. And so you want to make the case that, like, hey, the media is mean to outsiders. That's a good point. That is a really good point. If the right wing were to admit that and be like, yeah, their mainstream media is a problem, corporate media is a problem because they hate both of us, because we're outsiders. Fair enough. Fair enough. And we would agree with that. But they don't ever talk about that. They don't. They always say, oh, no, it's the far left that controls the media. And that's why they're mean to the right wing. No, that's not the reality. That's not the reality. So now the reality, of course, again, does not back up Trump's assertions of we're being spied on, all this terrible stuff had come from us or come for us, and the deep state was against us, etc., etc., etc. No. And by the way, you know who also wasn't victim of a nefarious plot? Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, her campaign died the death of 1,000 cuts. A lot of them were self-inflicted. She didn't campaign in, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Maybe had she done so, she might have actually won those swing votes that were very, very important in these states where, again, the Electoral College wins allowed Trump, even though he had lost a popular vote, to become president. 1,000 cuts, right? 1,000 cuts. No, the reality of the election here is that people didn't want either of them in charge. Trump in 2020, Clinton in 2016, but we have this electoral system that basically gave us a lesser of two evils. That was the situation. And yes, let me just point out one last thing too. This isn't like, so there was Russian bots and trolls. We know that. That's reality, right? How much of an effect that they had on the election, I don't really know. how much that actually contributed to Trump's win or Hillary Clinton's loss or people staying home or voting third party, etc. Right? And there was a lot of, again, Oppo research, but also fake stories that were put out that were amplified by the bots and trolls on social media that were basically astroturf, Russian accounts, basically. And so, again, that is something that absolutely happened. But as far as all the other things, a lot of these other allegations, a lot of these other charges that, by the way, both sides are throwing around over this whole Russia situation, it's just absolute ridiculousness. I think a lot of the stuff on both sides has been disproved. No, the Clinton campaign wasn't spying on the Trump campaign. Obama was not spying on the Trump campaign. And no, Putin didn't personally order Donald Trump to, or didn't have like a compromising PP tape or whatever to get Trump to do certain things. No. If we've learned anything, it's that Trump controls what Trump does. And no matter, and usually if you want to figure out what Trump is going to do, all you have to do is look at a couple of different things, right? Is he going to make money from it? And is he going to get attention, positive attention? And usually if those answers on both sides are yes, odds are that's why Trump's going to do it. Okay. So, that's it. That's all I got today. If you haven't already, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Helps us out. Also, check out the videos. If you haven't already, please sub to the channel. Really appreciate it if you would. Let me read some super chats here. Dystopian Dragon says, I bought a joke sign that says I'm charging $50 a minute for people who knock on my door. Nice. Payable in advance. Well, of course. Cora says, coming to a neighborhood near you. Shooter-proof underground bunker super school. Of course. Yep. All right. Let's see. Let's go to Twitch here. See if there's anything from the Twitch community. Christina, thank you for resubbing for a month at tier 1. Appreciate that. 1 year. Thank you. Everybody go check out Christina. She's doing some great work over there. Follow her channel. Help her out. Be a sub. Give her a subby or a follow. Let's see. Captain Cornball, thank you for the follow. D Rocky, thank you for subbing for a month of tier 1. Appreciate that. And SBloom85, thank you for resubbing. Really appreciate it. Gabby Mathis has some terrible news about Ray Turner, Bearded Dragon. I'm so sorry. My condolences to your family and friends. From this community who also was his friends and kind of like a family here. Really sorry. Again, our condolences to everyone who knew him. It's a heartbreaking situation. Don't worry, Red Hobbit. We'll figure out a moderator for those days that you're missing. So, all right. Anything else? Let's see. Do I think Biden is a good bad streamer? I don't know. I've never seen Biden stream. Okay, so I need to be I need to look up what happened. But yeah. I don't know if killed's the right news thing. Like a car accident or something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But it's still incredibly sad to hear. All right. Let's raid in here to Left Link Bets. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you all tomorrow. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you tomorrow.
I will eat your ass.
Wet ass P-word.
Big, massive dumps.
Ladies and
Oh no! Peachtree dish.
Pelosi's gazpacho police.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.